All right, so are you ready for this? We're going to take a deep dive into English conversation tips.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what? These are specifically for beginners.
Nice.
So we found this really cool script for like an instructional video,
Uh-huh.
and it's packed with like encouraging advice and,
Yeah.
we're going beyond the surface. We're
Yeah.
digging deeper to uncover like those golden nuggets,
I'm all right.
the
Yeah.
kind of wisdom that can make a real difference when you're trying to speak English confidently.
Makes sense.
What do you think is like the most common thing that trips people up when they're just starting out?
Um, I think it's probably that fear of like messing up, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And the script actually like addresses this
Oh, good.
right away.
Oh,
It
nice.
says beginners should really embrace like simplicity.
Yeah, totally. It's like giving yourself permission to just start talking,
Exactly.
and not get bogged down with all those complex grammar rules.
Yeah.
But I'm curious though,
Yeah.
is that really enough to build like real confidence?
You know what I mean? Doesn't make you sound a bit basic if you simplify things too much.
Well, that's where the psychology of it all comes in.
Okay.
You see, when you focus on clear and concise sentences, you actually end up reducing cognitive overload.
Interesting.
So,
Okay.
which in turn lowers anxiety.
Oh, that makes sense.
You're basically building a solid foundation brick by brick.
Ah, so it's not dumbing down the language. It's
Right.
about being like strategic,
Yeah, exactly.
especially in those early stages.
Yeah, just like you wouldn't expect someone to just sit down at a piano and start playing like a super complex concerto.
Yeah, no way.
They'd start with scales and chords
Yeah,
and build up to that,
makes sense.
build up their skills gradually.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense.
So you start simple, you build that confidence, and then you can add more complex stuff as you go.
Exactly. Yeah. And this kind of ties into another point that the script makes.
Yeah.
Embracing mistakes,
Yes.
which seems counterintuitive.
It does.
But it's so important.
It really is.
Like, why? Shouldn't we be aiming to speak perfectly?
well, every time you make a mistake
Yeah.
and then correct it, you're strengthening those neural pathways, in your brain.
Oh,
Like imagine you're like carving a path through a forest.
okay.
The more you walk it, the clearer and easier it gets.
Oh, I see.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so it's not just about avoiding mistakes.
Right.
It's using them
Okay.
to learn and grow.
I like that.
Yeah, the script actually gives this example where someone uses goad instead of went,
Oh, yeah.
which we've all done,
Totally.
And the advice is simple. Acknowledge it.
Uh-huh.
Correct yourself
Right.
and move on.
Yeah. Don't dwell on it.
Exactly.
I like that.
It's like when I first started learning, I was so scared of getting every word perfect
Oh, yeah.
that I was practically frozen.
I know that feeling.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's why this whole idea of embracing mistakes is so powerful.
Okay.
It's like a permission slip to
Yeah.
experiment, to play with the language,
That's a good point.
and you actually learn more effectively.
So we've talked about starting simple,
Yes.
embracing those slip-ups.
Right.
What's next in this, confidence building journey?
Well, the script says something that's kind of obvious, but we often overlook it.
What's that?
Listening and repeating.
Oh, okay.
It sounds basic,
Yeah.
but it's so powerful.
Especially for beginners?
Especially for beginners.
So mimicking native speakers
Yes.
to get the pronunciation right.
Exactly.
But isn't that a little robotic?
It's not about being a clone.
Okay.
It's training your ear and tongue to work together.
Uh-huh.
Think of it like learning an instrument. You listen to the notes,
Okay.
you practice the scales,
Got it.
and then you develop your own style.
So it's about absorbing those nuances of English.
Yeah.
The rhythm, the intonation.
The music of it.
Yeah. And then you make it your own.
Exactly.
That's cool. The script suggests repeating phrases from videos or shows.
Wow.
Like, how are you today?
Oh, yeah.
Just practicing those.
So you're building a foundation
Yes.
for natural sounding speech.
Exactly.
But how do you go from practicing phrases to an actual conversation?
Well, that's where asking questions comes in.
Oh, okay.
The script emphasizes this so much.
I love asking questions.
It's good.
It's in my nature.
But how does it actually help with language learning?
I mean, yeah, that's a good question.
Well, it makes you an active participant,
Okay.
not just passively listening.
Right.
You're engaging with the language.
Makes sense.
You're formulating sentences
Yeah.
and getting comfortable speaking.
So it's a workout
Yeah.
for your English muscles.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that. And the script even gives you some starter questions.
So perfect.
Like, how are you?
Yeah.
What's your name?
Great.
You're from?
Yeah. Those are great. They can lead to deeper conversations.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
as you get more confident.
Absolutely.
But it all comes down to practice, doesn't it?
It really does.
Practice, practice, practice.
The script stresses that consistency is key.
Yeah.
Even short boosts every day are better than like once a month for a long time.
Yeah. It's got to be a regular thing.
It has to be a habit.
Yeah, so the script suggests, like, speaking to yourself, listening to English content.
Using apps.
Yeah.
Finding what works for you and making it a habit.
Make it fun.
Yeah, not a chore.
Okay, so we've covered starting simple,
Right.
embracing mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
listening and repeating,
Yes.
asking questions and practicing consistently.
Sounds good.
But language isn't just about words, is it?
It's not.
What about all the nonverbal stuff?
That's such a good point. And the script talks about body language too.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
How gestures and expressions can really enhance communication.
So even if your vocabulary is limited, you can still communicate.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I remember traveling once and I didn't speak the language.
Oh.
I relied so much on gestures.
It's a universal language.
It is.
A smile can mean so much.
Yeah.
A puzzled look,
You know,
a nod.
it's like adding another layer of meaning
yeah.
on top of the words.
And the script gives an example.
Okay.
Like smiling when you say, I'm happy.
Yeah.
Or a confused look when you say, I don't understand.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Makes perfect sense.
It's about using every tool you have
Yeah.
to express yourself.
I love that. And it reminds me of another point the script brings up.
Okay.
Staying positive and having fun while you're learning.
So important.
Because it can be tough.
It can be.
And it's easy to get discouraged.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you enjoy it,
Yeah.
you're more likely to stick with it.
For sure.
The script actually links a positive mindset to less stress and better retention.
Oh, wow.
Like your brain is more open to new information when you're relaxed.
That makes sense.
It makes sense.
So it's not about forcing yourself to study. It's about making it enjoyable.
Exactly.
So find ways to make it fun.
Yeah.
Whether it's watching a show.
Listening to music.
Yeah.
Whatever works.
Awesome. We've talked about so many good tips.
We have.
But I know there's one thing that always trips people up.
What's that?
Pronunciation.
The dreaded P word.
I know it can be so intimidating.
It can be.
Especially when you're just starting out.
Yeah. And the script addresses it head on.
Okay, good.
It does.
But is it really that important? I mean, as long as people understand you,
Right.
do you really need a perfect accent?
That's a good question. And the script emphasizes that clear communication is the goal,
Yeah.
not sounding exactly like a native speaker.
Oh, okay. So it's more about being understandable,
Exactly.
not reaching some impossible level of perfection.
Yeah. And if you're struggling with specific sounds or words,
Huh?
there are resources you can use,
Like what?
like pronunciation apps,
Oh, yeah.
online dictionaries.
Right.
You can even ask native speakers for help, you know, for sure. Like if you're not sure how to say thought,
Yeah, thought is a hard one.
you can listen to audio examples or
Oh.
ask someone.
That makes sense.
It's about being resourceful.
Yeah.
And remember, even native speakers have different accents. The goal is clear speech,
Okay.
not erasing your own voice.
That's reassuring to hear.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground,
We have?
but there are two more points I want to highlight
Okay.
from the script.
All right.
The first is patience.
Ah, yes, patience.
So important.
The unsung hero of language learning.
It is.
It really is, and the script is so encouraging.
Yeah,
It reminds us that progress takes time.
it does.
You know, it's not about instant fluency, it's
Right.
about the journey
Yeah.
and knowing there will be ups and downs
Oh, yeah.
along the way.
For sure.
You know, so it's okay to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Have days where you feel stuck, and don't compare yourself to others.
Well, that's such a good point. You're on your own path.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's like a long and winding road
It is.
with scenic views and unexpected detours.
Exactly.
But ultimately, you enjoy the ride and trust that you'll get there.
Beautifully put.
And that leads perfectly to the last point.
All right.
Finding a conversation partner.
Yeah.
Because you can practice and prepare all you want,
Uh-huh.
but you gotta put it into action.
You do.
Right.
Yeah, and the script highlights how transformative it can be.
Oh, wow.
To have someone to practice with.
Yeah.
To bounce ideas off of and
Yeah.
get feedback from.
It's like taking that leap
It is.
from solo practice to real-world interaction.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be intimidating.
No, it doesn't.
The script gives tips for finding a partner, like language exchange programs,
Yeah.
online groups.
Connecting with friends?
Yeah, just reaching out
Yeah.
to people who speak English.
Exactly.
And it's not just about the grammar and vocabulary. It's
Wow.
about connecting with another person. It's about building relationships,
Yeah.
sharing experiences,
Yeah.
learning about different cultures.
That's awesome.
It makes it so much more enjoyable.
I love that.
Yeah,
So we've covered a lot today.
we have.
Starting simple, embracing mistakes, the power of practice, the importance of finding a conversation partner.
That's all important.
But before we wrap up,
Yeah.
what resonated with you the most?
Yeah, it's hard to pick just one.
Oh, I know.
But that shift from perfection to progress,
Yeah.
that really stood out to me.
Yeah, it's so easy to get caught up in that idea that we have to speak perfectly
Right.
right from the start.
Immediately.
Yeah.
And that's just so discouraging,
It is.
especially for beginners.
Yeah, you're setting yourself up for failure
Yeah,
before you even begin.
And the script reframes that. It
Yeah.
encourages learners to embrace those mistakes as
Yes.
opportunities.
Yeah.
And to focus on the journey.
Right, not the destination.
Exactly.
I think that's such an important message.
It is.
For anyone learning a language.
It is about giving yourself permission
Totally.
to experiment,
Totally.
to make mistakes.
To learn from them
Exactly.
and to have fun along the way.
Absolutely. Because if you dread every practice session,
Oh, yeah.
you're not going to stick with it.
No, you're not.
And that's what the script highlights.
Okay.
Finding that joy in language learning.
I love that.
Yeah.
So for our listener
Yeah.
who's just starting this journey
Uh-huh.
of learning English,
Yes.
what would you say is like the top takeaway?
You know, I would say confidence comes from consistency
Okay.
and a willingness to embrace the process.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to start small.
Yeah.
Make those mistakes.
Uh-huh.
Ask for help.
And find those moments of joy
Yes.
in the journey.
Exactly.
Like connecting with a conversation partner,
Yeah.
watching a funny movie,
Listening to music.
just celebrating the little wins.
It makes it so much more rewarding.
It does.
Yeah.
And speaking of little wins,
Yeah.
the script ends on a really interesting note.
Oh, yeah.
It asks viewers to think about one small change they can make
Today,
today.
based on what they've learned.
It's about taking action.
Yes.
Yes.
Putting those tips into practice.
Yeah?
And moving forward.
Yeah. So for you, our listener,
Yeah.
what will that one small change be?
I don't know.
Will you commit to speaking for 5 minutes every day,
Maybe.
even if it's just to yourself?
That's a good one.
Or maybe you'll try using a new phrase
Oh, yeah.
or a word in your next conversation.
No idea.
Even if it feels a little awkward,
Yeah, it might.
maybe you'll finally reach out
Yeah.
to a language partner.
Take the plunge.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
So many possibilities.
There are.
And remember,
Uh-huh.
every little step,
Yeah.
no matter how small,
I know.
brings you closer
It does.
to confidently expressing yourself in English.
That's the goal.
Keep practicing.
Keep learning.
And most importantly, keep having fun with it.
Yes.
That's what makes this whole journey so worthwhile.
It really does.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about like those small steps, those like tiny little movements
Yeah.
that really add up over time.
And I think what's really cool about the script is it doesn't tell you what that change should be.
You're right.
It's not like a one-size-fits-all thing.
Right. It lets you choose what works best for you.
Exactly. It's like, here's a toolbox full of tips.
Mm-hmm.
Now you decide which tool to use.
That's a great way to put it.
And that can be really motivating, right?
It is.
When you're in control of your learning.
Yeah, you feel more ownership.
Exactly. So for our listener out there
Yeah.
who's on this journey
Right.
of learning English,
Uh-huh.
what's going to be your small change?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Will you finally open that language app
Oh,
you
yeah.
downloaded like months ago
The one that's been sitting there.
and just do 5 minutes today?
Just 5 minutes.
That's all it takes.
You can do it.
Or maybe you'll challenge yourself to use a new phrase or a new word
Yeah.
in your next conversation,
Love it.
even if it feels a bit awkward.
That's okay.
Or maybe you'll take that leap and reach out to a language partner.
That's a big one.
It is.
But so rewarding.
The choice is yours.
It is.
And just remember,
Okay.
every step you take, even the tiny ones,
Uh-huh.
brings you closer to that goal
It does.
of speaking English confidently.
Confidently and comfortably.
Exactly. Keep practicing.
Keep experimenting.
Keep learning.
And most importantly,
What's that?
have fun.
Have fun with it.
Yes, because that's what makes it all worthwhile.
You got it. And that's what we're all about here.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time,
Happy learning, everyone.
happy language learning.
Yeah.
And it's all about giving you that power
Right.
to choose what works for you.
Like what feels right at this moment
Exactly.
in your language learning journey.
So for our listener,
Yeah.
what will it be?
What will that small change be?
Will you dust off that app
The one you haven't touched in ages.
and just try 5 minutes?
Just a little bit today.
Maybe you'll use a new phrase
Oh, that's a good chat.
in your next conversation.
Doesn't have to be a big one.
Just one?
Just something new.
What about reaching out to a language partner?
Ooh, that's a big step.
It is.
But you can do it.
It's all about taking those steps
No matter how small.
towards that goal.
Of speaking confidently.
Yes, expressing yourself in English.
Feeling comfortable.
So keep practicing, keep experimenting, keep learning.
And have fun.
Yes, don't forget the fun.
Because that's what makes it all worthwhile.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Glad to hear it.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, happy language learning, everyone.